Knights Templar, Tales of Sir Geoffrey de Clare. Volume 1, Issue 13. This is a fictional story brought to you by the Knights Templar Order of Australia. Some characters and places are real, but are in no way to be taken as fact. Like, comment and subscribe for more Knights Templar, Tales of Sir Geoffrey de Clare. Author Daniel Burrell. The first light of dawn had barely begun to touch the sky when Geoffrey, Bernard, Peter and John rose from their rest. The air was cool and filled with the scents of the surrounding forest. Geoffrey stretched and quickly dressed in his Templar robes, the fabric familiar and comforting against the morning chill. Their first task of the day was morning prayers. The knights and their young charges gathered in the makeshift chapel, a quiet clearing within the forest where they could focus their thoughts. The solemnity of the prayers provided a moment of calm and reflection before the day's journey. The rhythmic Latin prayers echoed softly in the early light, grounding them in their faith and fortifying their spirits. After prayers, they returned to the camp for breakfast. In keeping with the Templar tradition, Geoffrey and Bernard shared a bowl of warm porridge, while Peter and John shared another. The silence during breakfast was only broken by the steady voice of a brother reading scriptures, a solemn reminder of their spiritual commitments amidst their worldly duties. "Today will be another long day," Bernard said quietly to Geoffrey, mindful of the silence but needing to prepare his friend. Geoffrey nodded, taking a last spoonful of porridge. "We must be vigilant. The closer we get to London, the more likely we are to encounter trouble." After breakfast, the camp buzzed with activity as everyone packed up their belongings. The clinking of armor, the snorting of horses, and the murmurs of conversation created a symphony of readiness. The knights moved with practiced efficiency, ensuring that every item was secured and every horse was prepared for the journey ahead. By the time the sun was fully risen, they were on the road. The path was well traveled, but lined with dense trees and underbrush, perfect for an ambush. Geoffrey and Bernard rode at the front, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. "Keep your senses sharp," Geoffrey said to Peter and John, who rode close behind them. "The roads may seem safe, but we must always be prepared." Not long into their travels, Master Egbert called Geoffrey and Bernard forward. "I want you two to scout ahead," he instructed. "Make sure the road is clear." Geoffrey and Bernard nodded, urging their horses into a gallop as they moved ahead of the main group. The landscape blurred past them, the rhythm of the horses' hooves on the ground a steady reassurance. After some distance, they slowed their pace, moving cautiously as the forest thickened. As they rounded a bend, Geoffrey's keen eyes caught sight of smoke rising in the distance. "Bernard, do you see that?" he whispered, pointing ahead. Bernard nodded, his expression grim. "Smoke from a campfire. Let's approach quietly." They dismounted and moved stealthily through the underbrush, careful to stay hidden. As they neared the source of the smoke, they saw a large camp sprawled out before them. Over 100 bandits, armed and dangerous, were gathered around multiple fires. The sheer number of them was daunting. "And we need to get back and warn the others," Geoffrey whispered urgently. Bernard nodded, and they retreated as quickly and quietly as they had come. Once back on their horses, they rode swiftly to rejoin the main group. "Master Egbert," Geoffrey called out as they approached. "We found a camp of bandits ahead, over 100 of them." Master Egbert's face hardened. "We cannot engage them with our numbers. We would be outnumbered 5 to 1. "What do we do, Master?" Bernard asked, concern etched on his face. "We need reinforcements," Master Egbert replied. "Geoffrey, Bernard, you will stay and keep watch on the bandits. The rest of us will make haste to London to gather enough forces." Geoffrey and Bernard nodded, understanding the gravity of their task. "We will not let them out of our sight," Geoffrey assured. The knights quickly reorganized. Geoffrey and Bernard were given supplies and instructions to stay hidden and observe the bandits' movements. The rest of the group, led by Master Egbert, continued on the road to London with increased urgency. As the main group rode off, Geoffrey and Bernard made their way back to the hidden vantage point they had found earlier. From their concealed position, they could see the entire camp without being detected. "Look at them," Bernard muttered, peering through the foliage. "They seem well organized for bandits." "Indeed," Geoffrey agreed. "We need to watch for any signs that they might be preparing to move. If they start to mobilize, we have to find a way to warn the others." The hours passed slowly. The bandits went about their routines, unaware that they were being watched. Geoffrey and Bernard took turns keeping watch and resting, maintaining their vigilance. "Geoffrey," Bernard whispered during one of their watch changes, "do you think they have any idea that we are here?" "No," Geoffrey replied, "but we must remain cautious. Overconfidence could be our downfall." As the sun began to set, the bandits' activity increased. Fires were stoked and more bandits gathered around them, talking and planning. Geoffrey could feel the tension building. "They're getting restless," Geoffrey observed. "Something is changing." "We need to stay alert," Bernard said. "If they decide to move, we have to act quickly." The night grew darker, and the forest became eerily quiet. The bandits settled into a semblance of routine, some sleeping while others stood guard. Geoffrey and Bernard maintained their vigil, the weight of their responsibility heavy on their shoulders. "This reminds me of our journey to the coast," Geoffrey whispered, breaking the silence. "Do you remember the night we were ambushed by those highwaymen?" "How could I forget?" Bernard replied with a faint smile. "We were outnumbered then too, but we managed to fend them off." Geoffrey nodded. "We did, and we will handle this situation with the same resolve." As the hours dragged on, Geoffrey and Bernard kept a close watch on the camp. The bandits showed no signs of preparing to move, but their vigilance never wavered. The moon rose high in the sky, casting a pale light over the forest. Meanwhile, Master Egbert and the other knights rode hard towards London, the urgency of their mission driving them forward. The city was bustling even at night, a testament to its importance and activity. Master Egbert demanded an audience with King Stephen, explaining the dire situation. King Stephen, upon hearing the details, did not hesitate. "You shall have the soldiers you need, Master Egbert. We cannot allow these bandits to terrorize the countryside." Master Egbert was provided with 150 soldiers on horseback. With the reinforcements, he set out immediately to return to Geoffrey and Bernard. Back at the bandit camp, Geoffrey and Bernard watched as the bandits, now emboldened by the cover of night, became more active. "It looks like they are planning something," Bernard observed. "We need to be ready." "Let's hope Master Egbert returns soon," Geoffrey replied, his eyes never leaving the camp. In the early hours of the morning, the sound of hoofbeats broke the silence. Geoffrey and Bernard tensed, ready to react. A group of knights and soldiers, led by Master Egbert, emerged from the darkness. "Master Egbert," Geoffrey whispered as the reinforcements approached, "you made it back." "We have the soldiers we need," Master Egbert replied, his voice low but resolute. "We will rest now and attack at dawn. The bandits have been drinking heavily and will likely sleep late into the morning." The knights and soldiers set up a quiet camp, resting and preparing for the attack. Geoffrey and Bernard, their vigil finally over, joined them in the brief respite. "You did well, Geoffrey," Master Egbert said. "Your vigilance has given us the advantage." "We're ready for whatever comes next," Geoffrey replied. The sense of camaraderie and shared purpose was stronger than ever. As they settled in for a brief rest, Geoffrey reflected on the day's events and the importance of vigilance, bravery, and teamwork. The journey ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, but together they would face them with steadfast resolve. This is a fictional story brought to you by the Knights Templar Order of Australia. Some characters and places are real, but are in no way to be taken as fact. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow our socials for more Knights Templar, Tales of Sir Geoffrey de Clare.